All right, welcome everybody. We're going to do a little work with Maple. Got two other horses tied in here. You can't see them on the screen. They're tied off to the sides. So one over here is a stud. The other one over here is just a gelding. If this stud acts up, I may have to discipline him a little bit, but it'd be good for him. Probably good for her too. Okay, I think I got noise canceling on. Hopefully I didn't mute it. All right, I think the camera can see. Okay, so I'm really hoping today, this is the second time I videoed. Hopefully you watched the last video. I went kind of through a little bit of this horse's history and who she is. But this is day 2, so go back and watch that one if you're curious about that stuff. But we'll go ahead and get started. I'm really hoping today to ride her, but we'll see. Who knows? You always want to go at the pace of the horse, not what you want to do. And I'm going to kind of run through all my groundwork, ask her a bunch of questions, see if I get right answers or wrong answers. So right now, I just want her to follow the feel of the lead rope. I got no movement right there, so I'm going to ask her to go a little bit. Might just switch directions, see if she can follow the feel of this lead rope. Better. There's a little lick in the chew. Good. She's starting to hang her head down a little bit. Like I said, I really like this mare. She just needs a little bit of tune-up, I think. She's really not bad. I'm gonna go and switch directions. If there's one thing that I would say about this mare is that she just kind of doesn't want to be told what to do, which is a lot of horses, especially that have experienced some inconsistency in their life. And she's 11. Her current owner has only owned her, I don't remember, I think 2 years or so. So, even if her current owner is as consistent as she can possibly be, there's still a lot of time in her life where she has experienced inconsistencies, I'm sure. So what I want to do, there's a flag on the ground right there she's spooking at, but that's all right. She needs to learn to pay attention even when she's spooking at something. Licking and chewing. Good. I might just let her go ahead and stop here. Okay, I'm watching that back foot. The back foot feet step together instead of under. So I know there's probably some tension still in there. So it's just something I'm going to keep in the back of my mind. But yeah, anytime a lot of times when you go to ask her for lateral flexion or you're switching directions, you're asking her to move out a little and get that forward yield, she has a tendency to get a little mad about that stuff. So I think that's going to be a quick fix. You see there, she's moving forward, but she's mad about it, right? She hasn't really yielded there. She's kind of yielding forward a little bit better. There. Now she's actually moving out. Just got to get her where she's not so mad about this stuff. There, she licks and chews, lots of blinking, and she's just actually moving out. That's what I'm looking for. Good, and that time she kicked some sand on that flag, it made some noise, and she didn't get spooked at it. I might just go ahead and reverse directions. I want her to follow the feel of that lead rope. Yield forward. There, that was better. Didn't get quite so pissy about it that time. Keep going. That she got pretty pissy there. Now she's moving out better. So this is a mistake I've made plenty of times in my life, and I'm kind of in the process of learning from it. Don't be afraid to get your horses to go somewhere, to move forward. Forward movement in itself is not a sign of danger, right? You can have a dangerous horse that's all wadded up and all the energy goes up into bucking. So forward is not necessarily dangerous. Now, that being said, just because a horse is nice and forward doesn't mean they're not dangerous. They can do a lot of things dangerous, like bolt, with lots of forward too. But don't think that, oh, look how slow my horse is going, it's safe, right? It's not really a correlation there. You need your horse moving out nice and freely. Now, when you ask it to stop, it needs to stop nice and free. But did you notice once I got her moving forward nice and freely, when I asked her to stop, that hind leg, she was coming around like this, and I asked her to stop, and that hind leg stepped up and under real nicely. So just by getting her to move out and getting that forward yield better, she loosened up a lot of her body, her loins and rib cage and shoulders and hips and all that stuff. Good. I'm going to come back to that, but I'm going to do a little bit of other stuff like lateral flexion. And it is raining outside, so all this sweat that you see, all this wetness on her back and hips, that's not sweat. Or did I say? I didn't say sweat. That's not sweat. That's from rain. I didn't work her any before starting this video, so just to clarify that. I had her mane all nice and brushed out yesterday, and it's a mess now. Okay. Good. That's better than yesterday. That came along quick. And I think it was actually 2 days ago that I did the last video with her. So I say yesterday, I mean 2 days ago, but I didn't have a chance to work her yesterday. We had to take a bunch of horses down to the farrier. We use a farrier down in Penrose, so it's a little bit of a haul every time we have to do that. So I didn't get a chance to work anyone yesterday. She's doing that lateral flexion pretty good. I would love for her to just relax here and lick and chew, but you can see her head's nice and low. Every time I touch that rein, she's pretty soft to it. So there's some good stuff there. There's a little bit of tension there. I didn't like how when I first touched that, her first instinct was kind of come up. She didn't exactly brace, but she kind of came up in her neck. I'd like her just to, there, that was a little bit better. There we go. Her first instinct was relax and give. It was very small, but it was there. There we go. I don't do this very often these days, but I'm going to go ahead and bend her all the way around her shoulder right there. Her in particular, I feel like she's, again, like I said 2 days ago, she kind of is dismissive of humans. And so when I'm asking for that lateral flexion, she's kind of like, yeah, I know the game, I'll give it. But she's not actually thinking over here. And most of these guys, most of my other horses that I'm working, you do that a couple times, just barely getting them to tip their nose towards you. And then after 4 or 5 times of that, they actually look all the way over here and then they're like, hey, what are you doing? She's kind of a little bit, like I say, more dismissive of humans. And so I've been doing this a few times now, and she's kind of like, yeah, okay, whatever. Yeah, okay, whatever. And so that's why I kind of brought her all the way around that time. She was a little stiff there on that first touch. There we go. So I really want to ride her today, but some of this stuff has to be pretty good before I'm willing to get on a horse. Even though she's a super safe horse, non-horsey people ride her. She does trail rides. Like there's you know, but I'm just particular about the horses I get on, and they have to be soft right there before I get on them. They have to be able to yield their hind end. They have to be able to yield their front end. They have to be able to go forward off of that cue. They have to be able to go backward off that cue. I'm going to go ahead and take her all the way around. She's just stiff or just doesn't want to, but I want her to really open up that neck. There we go. Good. That was better. Still love to get a lick and a chew here before I move on. You can see how she's just a little bit like, no, I got more important things to think about than flexing my neck around, right? She needs to start to realize that all those other things that she's worried about out there really don't have much to do with what she needs to be focusing on right here. Better. That time I just barely picked up, and she went ahead and brought her head all the way around. I don't know if it even looked different in the camera, but it definitely felt different. So I might just see if she can bring her focus back on her own here. Not really. Okay. And then she's pretty stuck, and there she gets the release. So that's part of what I'm really looking for is when she's stuck on something and I go to pick up that rein, and the first time she feels that pressure across her nose, does she immediately go, oh, I know what I was thinking about over here, but he needs me for something. I got more important things to think about, right? Or does she go, dude, screw you. I need to be thinking about over there. This is kind of building up that trust again. You know, I've talked about the inconsistencies that she's probably experienced over 11 years of different owners and whatnot. And, you know, horses will kind of tend to develop a self-preservation mode. You know, they're like, well, I can't count on the human to protect me because I don't know what they're so inconsistent. I don't know what the human's going to do. So I'll take care of myself. I'll watch out here or whatever. And it's not that they're scared of the human. They're just like, well, the human just doesn't really have anything for me, right? And so a lot of horses kind of get into that dismissive state. And what I need to do is, and it's a tough task, right? And I've got 30 days to convince her that I'm worth paying attention to, even if she's a little scared about something else, even if something else comes up that she thinks she should pay attention to, that she can trust me enough that I'll take care of all that stuff, just pay attention to what I need from you. That's a lot of trust to try to build in 30 days, right? Good. I just went to pick up that lead rope and her thoughts immediately came to me. She didn't do the best flexion ever, but you could see in her eye and her ear and everything. She was like, hey, do you need anything? And I just said, no, I'm good. As long as you check in with me like that, I'm good. Good. Now notice that she still has not licked and chewed, right? So we're not going to do anything to get her to lick and chew or anything like that, but it's just good to know what mental state your horse is in, right? And she's a very quiet horse, but there's an old saying that, I can't remember who said it, but there's an old saying that a quiet horse, a safe horse is always quiet, but a quiet horse is not always safe. And so I'm not saying she's unsafe, but I'm saying this is an example of where a horse can be extremely quiet, like she's still, she's not jumping around, she's not, she doesn't seem unsafe in any way, but she hasn't licked and chewed. So she's holding in a certain amount of tension. I always talk about like a 0 to 10 scale of anxiety, and if they hit 10 or over 10, that's when they blow up. They can't contain the anxiety anymore, and you're going to, who knows what's going to happen, right? 0 is like just, I'm just totally relaxed, licking and chewing, just like blah, right? So if she's sitting at like a 5 or a 6, okay, she's under that threshold of 10, so she's not blowing up, but she's at a 5 or a 6. She's not totally relaxed, which is evidenced by the fact that she has not licked and chewed this entire time. Well, then let's say something happens, I don't know, she walks over that flag, right? Maybe that flag is going to add another 5 increments of anxiety to her. Well, if she's already at a 5 or a 6 and it adds 5, boom, now we're at 10 or 11, right? Something might happen. If I get her to lick and chew and she comes all the way down, maybe she doesn't come to a 0, but hey, maybe she comes down to a 1 or 2, and then boom, we add 5 more increments of anxiety in there. Well, she's only at a 7 now, and it's still safe. Makes sense? So I don't really want to just go ahead and saddle her up and jump on and ride if she's still at maybe a 5 or 6 of anxiety, which again is evidenced by the fact that she has not licked and chewed. Good. I didn't even have to pull on the lead rope that time. I just touched it and she said, hey, what do you need? That's where I want her mind. If she stays on me, connected to me long enough like that, she's going to lick and chew. There was a little twitch. I don't know if you guys could see it. Probably could, but her whole head kind of went, that's part of her starting to kind of let down and relax. And we may start to see some kind of weird behavior here because she's probably not super used to relaxing beyond kind of where she is right now. Like I think this state right here is kind of where she lives most of her life, right? She's, like I said, she's a very quiet horse. She's good, but she's not completely relaxed. And I think she's very good at maintaining that 5 or 6 level of anxiety. She never really goes to 10, but she never really comes down to 0 either. And when she does start to drop down below that 5 or 6 level, we may see some weird behavior. And I don't know what that'll be, but weird twitching, or we'll see. I don't know. We'll find out. But it's kind of interesting when you start to get these horses, especially these older ones, relax. There's a little bit of a lick and chew. Good. Nice big one. Beautiful. And that lick and chew doesn't necessarily mean, boom, okay, she's at a 0, right? But it does mean that her autonomic nervous system, right? If you don't know what the ANS is, look that up. Has the sympathetic and the parasympathetic nervous system. Lick and chew is an indicator that she's coming down or has come down from the anxiety state to a rest and digest state, from the fight or flight to the rest and digest. If you don't know what those terms are, highly recommend you read about nervous systems and how all that stuff works. But yeah, I'm just going to reward her for a second for finding that relaxation. Now, the fact that it took her, 10, 15 minutes right there, or however long that took, to find that relaxation, just is information for me. It's not terrible. It tells me where she's at. So I'm going to go ahead and go back to some groundwork. I think I'm going to grab my flag this time because I would really like to get her into a lope. And like you saw from the first one, getting her into a lope is probably going to be a little bit of a challenge. She's probably going to kick out a little bit. She's going to get mad. I got other horses in here, and I don't really want to take her off lead and do it that way again. But I am going to carry my flag, make sure I can get her off of me, first off, and give her the pressure that's going to take to get her into the lope. So, go and send her. She's not really responding to that go yield. There we go. She's a little slow. I'm going to go and ask her for that trot. I want her to respect that go forward cue. Good. That's a nice striding out trot. Could be even more, but it's not bad. Good. And her head and neck are starting to relax a little bit. Nice. There's a lick and a chew. Beautiful. Now I'm going to go and do some, before I ask her to lope, I'm going to do some walk to trot transitions. I just feel like she's at a good point for that. And I want to kind of really reinforce to her what that trot cue, that means go faster. So I'm just going to pick up on her a little bit. Good. And she stopped instead of coming down to a walk, so I'm just going to ask her to go forward again. But that's okay. I mean, this is like the first time. Ask her to go forward. Good. Now notice that I'm not driving forward in that, because if I did, it would allow her to run towards the gate, which is where she's trying to really get to. That's why she keeps stopping on this side. She's trying to go to the gate. So it's almost like I'm asking her to go forward and around me. And that right there is going to actually help, like trailer loading or crossing a creek or anything like that, that you kind of are trying to get her to go where she doesn't necessarily really want to go. Good. And now she comes through that space engaged with me, nice and soft to the lead rope. I'm going to go ahead and ask her to trot. She got a little mad about that. There, her ears come forward, and I'll release the pressure when she's not angry about it. My little stud colt over there is getting a little mad, but it's good for him. Okay, I'm going to ask her to slow down to a walk, just off my body language, and a little bit of pull on this lead rope. Just like if I was in the saddle, I'd be sitting back a little bit. Good. I'm going to ask her to walk on. And I'd be bending her around. I'd be reaching down and bending her around, and a little bit of one rein stop. And I'm not being real fast or demanding with these maneuvers because, she is 11 and she's probably had a lot of people do a lot of different kind of groundwork with her. And so I want to teach her how my style of groundwork works and let her know, hey, I'm not going to be unreasonably demanding. And then that way, when I get under saddle, she's, she'll be the same way. She'll be like, oh, we can work out an understanding here, and she won't be, scared of my teaching. So I'm going to have to teach her how my cues work under saddle. Okay, I'm going to ask her to trot. Now I gave her a little bump forward, and I clucked to her, and neither one of those got her to really pay attention any. So I got pretty much going with that flag fairly quick. I brought that flag into action pretty violently, She's a little bit on the lazy side, actually a lot on the lazy side. And it can be a little bit on the pissy side. And so she needs to know, hey, follow my cues. I'm recording, but you can bring her on in. Good, so she's getting a little distracted by all the stuff going on, but this is good to see how she's gonna respond. Can she stay focused on the task at hand? She saw something run, one of the dogs run by that door over there, and she's spooked a little bit, but not a big deal. Might go ahead and ask her to switch directions, see how that goes. Good, a little less pissy than before, excellent. Might ask her to slow down to a walk here. Good. And then forward yield. There, good. And let's speed up to a trot. So she was like, oh, I got to poop. I'll just slow down to a walk. And I was like, no, you won't. I asked you to trot. There's no reason you can't trot and poop at the same time. And she got a little mad about that. But it's good for her to realize that she's got to do what I tell her to do, regardless. She's pulling on that halter just a little bit, so I'm just going to switch directions. Okay. So what I'm going to go into now is a little hind end yielding. I just feel like that's what she needs at the moment. What I'm looking for here is that the hind foot's stepping over and the rib cage and the hind end are yielding. And at the same time, I want her head fairly soft to this halter. You can see right now she's kind of pulling away. She's not bad. She's doing pretty good, but she's not as soft in her head and neck as I'd like. She's pretty softer in her body. It's a little bit better. If I feel like she gives me some, and I don't want her to bulk up like that and just stop. I want to keep that forward motion going. There, that felt pretty good. When I feel like she does pretty good, I'm just going to release her, back out into that circle. And if I feel, yep, there's a lot of pressure in her face, I'll just go right back into it. See how that kind of caught her by surprise? Because she was looking over at that door, thinking about other stuff. And I'm like, hey, I'm doing work here. There, I felt like she really gave in her face. But then when I released her out, she's like, oh, cool, we're done. No, we're not done. There, she just kind of said, I'm out. Nope, that's not an option. Go into a little hind end yielding. That feels pretty good. So she just tends to get distracted. Like when she's paying attention, she does stuff pretty good, but then she's like, oh, there's a lot of other stuff out here I need to be paying attention to. And every time she forgets what we're doing, her body falls apart, and I have to pick her up and do something, and then she gets, a little pissy about it. And I don't feel any need. It's not that I'm, scared to be sitting on her back and do this stuff, but I just don't feel any need to do all of this from her back. until, she kind of learns to give a little bit on the ground. She's got to learn to work a little bit. I think she's just been really, really lazy for a lot of her life, been allowed to get away with a lot, hasn't had to really pay attention to much throughout her life. Like I was talking about earlier, I think she kind of feels like she's kind of in charge of her own safety, and so she's like, I need to be paying attention to everything myself. And so there's just not a lot of, you could call it respect or focus. There's a lot of terms you could use for it, but all right, let's go the other way. But for her second day of doing this program, she's doing really good. I don't know anything about how other people have done groundwork with her. Like I say, I did have her for, I think about a month, maybe two, I think it was 1 month, a while back. But I did quite a bit different groundwork back in those days. I'm a much better horseman now than I was even then, which that wasn't that long ago. But I'm asking her different stuff now than I was back then. Better. Just gonna let her rest there for saying that. She just really seemed like she was trying for me right there. And do note that she's not liking and chewing in these little breaks. I'd really like to finish something like that, and she'd just go, oh, okay, cool, get a break time, and she's kind of standing there like all solid and rigid. So again, I think she's very used to staying at, like I say, like a 5 or 6 out of 10 anxiety. She's not exactly blowing up. She's not doing anything. She hasn't done anything today that would have been unsafe under saddle. I could have ridden through all this and done all this, but I'd really like her to clear out all that anxiety in between each interaction. I think she tends to block out a lot of the things that scare her. This is something horses will do a lot as a coping mechanism. You can call it being shut down. I don't know that she's exactly shut down. I don't think that's the case, but she tends to block some things out. So I've seen kind of the way she's looking at this door right here. She's kind of like, it doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. I can kind of look at, no, it doesn't exist, And that kind of works to a point. That's probably how she's gotten through a lot of her life, like through the trail rides and different things, is just kind of blocking everything out. And it can make them safe, air quotes, safe, but they're so much safer if they will acknowledge something that's scaring them and be like, okay, it's not a big deal. Like, look at the door, be like, oh yeah, it's a garage door, and it's going to rattle around, the wind's going to hit it, it's going to bang around, it might even open from now and then, now and again, and then just clear out that item as something that she needs to be worried about. That's what I'd like to get her to. Now, on that journey, if you're doing this with your horse, expect them to maybe spook at things a little bit more while you're on that journey, because if she's shut down completely, she might not spook at the door. Whereas if she's engaging and be like, oh, let me investigate, is that door something that needs to be scary or not? Well, then she's acknowledging it. She may actually spook at it more for starters, but it'll get so much less later on because they're actually aware of their surroundings. And you won't get that one big freak accident spook that everybody talks about where they're like, I don't know what happened. I was riding great and same place my horse has ridden for years, and then something happened and it bolted. Well, your horse was probably blocking out a lot of things that were scary to it. And finally it got just above that 10 threshold, right? And boom, you get that freak accident, which is really not a freak accident. There's really no such thing as a freak accident with horses. Now, she still hasn't licked and chewed, so I'm going to go up and do some lateral flexion. Basically going to help her relax by putting a bend in her body. Good. That's pretty decent lateral flexion. Now, eventually, I'd like to not have to help her relax. I'd like her to learn to relax on her own. But she's probably not quite there where she can learn to do that on her own. So. Hi. That's cool. She did that lateral flexion right there on her own. She actually kind of wanted to look over here and engage with me. She's still a little bit, so that's kind of a little bit of being shut down, I think. I was talking earlier about whether she's actually shut down or whether she's just blocking out a few things. I think she might be shut down to humans a little bit, because right there she didn't look over here real freely and investigate and be like, hi, what are you doing? You know, it was more like, can I look at him? Yeah, okay, I'm not gonna look at him anymore. Right? It's more like that. So I think she may actually be a little bit shut down to the human sitting on her back too. So that's good to know. So this way of doing lateral flexion where I just barely touch that rein, or in this case the halter lead rope, and as soon as her thoughts come over here, I release. It's going to really help her start to have the courage to mentally engage and mentally see what's going on over here as far as the human sitting on her back or standing here. Good girl. And there she's actually sniffing me. Good. Big old blinks, a lot more relaxation there. Still like to see a lick and a chew. I'm not seeing a lot of twitching yet. I'm not seeing a whole lot of blinking. Like there was some good blinks, but not a ton. There's a lot of relaxing this horse could do, which is crazy when you kind of look at it from the outside. Her head's fairly low. She's such a quiet horse. You kind of, you wouldn't call you crazy if somebody saw this horse and was like, oh, she's so relaxed. It's awesome, right? But if you really know the signs of relaxation in terms of licking and chewing, twitching, blinking, like the finer details, she's not actually very relaxed. I'm going to do a little bit of flexion with my nose, or my hand over her nose band, because I get so much more feel that way And I don't do this a ton, but some. If you cup your fingers over that main bone coming down their nose, you can kind of, there's some nerves and kind of some soft fleshy area there, and you can get a lot of feel with your fingers right there, kind of the way a nose band of a hackamore would sit. And you can get them to really place their nose, whether you want them to soften more with their chin to the chest, or whether you want more lateral flexion versus vertical. Whatever you're going for, you can really, like, a lot of times a horse will have a lot of loose muscles in their neck, but they'll have one section that doesn't want to bend, and they compensate by bending everything else, but that one section stays tight. And a lot of times with the lead rope, you can't really get that one section to loosen up, but you get so much more feel when you cup your hand over their nose. You can actually isolate a muscle that you want to loosen up in their neck, or a region better. There was the first little hint of a twitch right there. It was the same kind of head nod twitch that we had earlier over there before she actually licked and chewed. That tells me that she's on her way down to relaxation. But this horse doesn't give you a bunch of twitches and big blinks and all the things that a lot of horses do. She's a little more rigid than that, a little more reserved. There was a big blink. And to be fair to her, yesterday was a much calmer day, or 2 days ago was a much calmer day than today. It rained earlier, so she was fairly wet when we brought her in. The wind's whipping through this garage door and rattling it from time to time. I mean, you can hear the wind outside. Like, there's a licking at you. Good. I've got 2 other horses. One's a stud. One's acting up a little bit. There's environmental factors that are making her a little bit more on edge than normal, but that's the best time to train. I want to train a horse at its worst and get the worst better than to see it at its best and try to get the best a little bit better, because that's not going to help the worst time. So good. I just want to give her a reward here for relaxing. And I still haven't loped her, and I still want to do that. So I'll probably go a little more over there. I don't want to take the time to go pick up all this poop, and I don't want to lope her through all the poop and shred it up and not be able to get it out of here. So all right, let's do some loping. Good. I actually liked that better. She didn't step out great. Hopefully the camera can see. I'm going to turn that camera over here just a little bit, make sure that it can see what we got going on over in this side. When I sent her off there, I didn't love the send off. That's probably pretty good right there. I didn't love the way she went off. It took a lot of flag to get her going. But when I did wave the flag, what I really liked was she put all her energy into going, not a lot of energy into being mad or trying to kick out, or all the things she was doing a little bit earlier. So it was more just like, oh crap, I'm late, I need to go. And that's what I want from her. So that's going to translate into going off my cue. So now let's see if she goes off my cue a little bit better. It wasn't much better, but it'll get there. All right, let's go ahead and ask her to lope. Good. Hey, that's an improvement. I'll take that. Come on. Okay, it took a lot, but hey, she didn't do it in a pissy way. I don't think 2 days ago, the first day I worked with her, I don't think I was even able to get her to lope on the lead line. It was only off the lead line, and even that wasn't super easy. So okay, good. Yeah, I didn't like the way she pulled on the lead rope right there. She just got a little confused there. She wasn't feeling the pull of the lead rope very well, and so that got her confused. But I liked the way she handled that situation. She didn't get mad, didn't do anything dangerous. There we go. I like that. See, I was able to use so much less flag there, and she's just responding. Good. A little bit of pissy ears there. She's just rocking back a little more than I'd like in some of these turns. I want her to have nice and forward. Feel that lead rope. Go the new direction. Better. Might ask her to slow down to a walk. Good. Keep going forward. See how she wants to rock back. I don't really want her rocking back there. Keep going forward. There's a time and a place to rock back for sure, but not when I've asked you to go forward. There we go. I picked up on that lead rope. She turned her face in and looked at me and said, hey, what do you need? Do you want me to stop? I said, no, I don't really want you to stop. I want you to keep going, but thank you for checking in with me. And she's like, okay, cool. And she looked and shooed. Excellent. This stupid little stud horse is acting up, but it's all right. It's good for her to have to maintain focus even with him being a jackass over there. All right, I'm gonna go in and ask her to lope again. Different lead this time. Good, she thought about kicking out. She jumped up like she's gonna kick at me. And then she said, nah, I think I just need to lope. Because the funny thing is, they can't buck and they can't kick while they're loping, right? If you think about it, kicking takes the time that a stride would take. So they have to stop their stride, kick, or buck. If they're loping truly forward, they're not going to do any of that. They're just going to go forward. And so she went to kick, and I was aggressive enough with that flag, and I have that forward cue enough. She knows, hey, the answer is forward, that even though she hopped up to kick, she goes, wait, I know the answer is forward, and I can't go forward if I'm kicking. So let me put my hind end back on the ground and get my forward, and then she got out of the jam. And that's really going to help me when I get on her back and I go to lope her off. All right. Okay, wasn't pretty, but hey, we got there. She tried a lot of other answers besides the one we wanted, but we rewarded on the correct answer. That's all that matters. And there's the lick and a chew right after we finish the exercise. Good. All right, let's go again. You see, even right there, that go isn't really working perfectly right there, right? It's that is the same cue that's not working perfectly going into the lope. All right, so just a little example I wanted to point out there where a lot of, like, going from the trot to the lope is a lot of work for me. Chasing her around and whipping the flag and everything. And sometimes if there's a very difficult thing to work on, sometimes the thing that'll fix it's not even in that thing. It's elsewhere. So like in this case, going from the stop to the go, better. Fixing that and getting that where it works every time might actually fix the lope without having to work it in the lope as much. Better. Her immediate answer was, hey, move out of that, move from that yield, right? It's a forward yield, so yielding to the pressure means going forward. So she's wanting to bulk up and stop when I ask for that. There, get better. I know it looks like crap, but we're getting it. And there's probably a better way to work on this trot to lope transition. I won't lie, this is something I'm not real happy with in my program right now. I haven't found a better way to do it. I think it's really important that they learn to lope out freely before you start riding them. And a lot of my horses, not all of them, actually, some of them lope pretty freely in groundwork like this. But my issue always is I want to give them more lead because I want them to be in a bigger circle because it's easier for them to lope out, right? But if they're farther away from me, my flag or whatever doesn't reach out there. And I don't really like using a lunge whip because I don't really want to actually whip them on the butt. And even if I was to, you kind of have to reload that whip every time and it takes a long time. And they kind of just get to where they just get mad about the whip, but they don't actually lope. And I don't have a round pin here. I use this indoor kind of like a round pin. Anyway, if you know of a better way to do it a different way. If I ever find a better way to do it, I'll learn it and I'll teach you guys it. I'll put a video out about it. But I'm not afraid to tell you guys what I don't know and what I'm still trying to figure out. But what I do know is she was kicking out at me yesterday or 2 days ago when I got her into a lope. She hasn't kicked out at me today. When I asked for a little bit more energy in the trot, she's asking for her to lope, but she's at least giving me more energy and thinking forward, and thinking about going into that lope. And that tells me that we're on the right track and we're going to get there. Let's see what else we did. We've done forward yields. We've done hind end yields, both sides. I want to do some shoulder yielding. And of course, we've done lateral flexion. That's important. I'm just going to lay this lead rope across her neck, back it up with what would be my foot if I was on her back. Good. I'm looking for that foot to step over. I'd like her to go ahead and finish it out. She hasn't really committed to it. There. Good. Ask for it again. Oh, she kind of thought about doing it without me even having to bump her on the side. So lay that rein, bump her, keep going. There. Lay that rein, bump her. That was kind of a, she's not committing to it. She's sucking too much back. So I'm going to move my body just a little bit back. If she's sucking too much back, meaning this foot is stepping back instead of forward, then I'm going to shift my body back, which will push her a little bit forward. Hopefully that makes sense. Ask, back it up. Yeah, a little bit, but she's kind of sticky. I kind of want to get her off of that. There. Like, move. I need to get her feet freed up a little bit more than this. Lay the rein. Again, it looks like I'm hitting her really hard, which I am, but hard for a human and hard for a horse is totally, totally different. And I'm only hitting her after I've given her the cue with the rein and cues with my thumb, just bumping her just like you would with your foot. And then when she's completely unresponsive to that, I'm literally punching her in the gut. But that you only want to do that after your other cues. A little bit responsive, but she's just kind of there. Good. Time I didn't have to do anything more than just gig her a little bit with my thumb, and she actually went, "Oh, let me move for you." Lay the rein across her neck. Got nothing. Bump her with my thumb. That was pretty weak sauce, but I still released and gave it to her. Cue, bump, okay. Cue, bump, nothing. Cue, bump. Weak sauce, cue, bump, weak, weak. There we go. Cue, bump, nothing. Cue, bump, nothing. There we go. Cue. There. A little bit of response. So when you get a little violent with them, which you'll have to do from time to time to show them that you mean business, especially with one a little older, set in her ways, kind of dull, make sure it's following cues, right? And when they do finally release to that cue, don't escalate to the violence, right? So cue, back it up. You didn't move. All right, wham. Cue, back it up. Whoa, she moved. If you go ahead and wham, just because you're in the habit of it, they're going to be like, well, I was lazy, I was responsive, neither one worked, I still got hit both times, who cares? And then they just go more dull. So, all right, let's do a little shoulder yielding on this side. Cue, back it up. Okay, I'll take that. Cue, back it up. She's moving at least, but she's not the way I want her to, but I'll just keep there. So she was stepping under with that foot instead of over, so I didn't escalate, but I just said, keep going, keep trying. At least you're moving. Cue. Keep trying. Now you're getting a little dull. A little reward there. There. She actually tried. Cue. Back it up. She wasn't really trying there at all. There. Cue. Now she's kind of throwing that rib cage into me. There was better. And I'll just keep working on that. I'm not going to get that all today, but her front end's moving, but her hind end and her rib cage are just being thrown into me. I don't know if you can kind of see that on the video or not, but that's not, that's not really acceptable for this movement. So I need her to be yielding the rib cage away with the shoulders. And it's kind of interesting, like that was better. A lot of people talk about the rib cage as a totally different part of the horse. They'll talk about the head and the neck, shoulders, the rib cage, the hips, right? I don't really do that. I like to talk about the head and neck, the shoulders, which are the front feet, and the hips, which are the back feet. That was an instance where the front feet and the back feet were pretty much doing what they needed to, but she was just sticking her rib cage into me. So usually I feel like you don't have to talk about the rib cage as a separate part of the horse, but if you are feeling that rib cage stick out, it needs to go with whatever body part you're working on. The shoulders are moving, the rib cage needs to kind of go with it. Yeah. I think that's pretty good for her today. I might just do a little more lateral flexion. If she's good with it, that's not bad. I kind of want to do some just jumping around on her. Like I say, I feel pretty safe with her. But I just want to see if there's any holes before I go to jump into the saddle. If she's scared about having a human kind of just laying across her back. And I don't think she will be, because she's had so many different people and so many kids and different people that probably just wallow around on her back, so she's probably pretty dull to all that, which is fine. That's good. Very good. But I really like getting, even colts, even like the first time I sit on a lot of these horses, I love it to be bareback. And I like for them not even to really realize that it's any different. It's just kind of, now obviously she's been ridden a ton. This is not new for her. But I can feel the horse so much better bareback. I feel like when there's a saddle there, I have a tendency to get rigid in the saddle and not feel the horse so much. But man, when you're sitting up there bareback, you got no stirrups, no nothing. If there's tension in there, you're going to feel it. Because there's no, the only safety you have is the trust that you have in that horse not doing something crazy. And so if you don't trust that horse, at least for me, I have enough self-preservation. If I don't trust that horse, I might sit on him with the saddle, but I dang sure ain't going to sit on him bareback. So now what I'd really like to know, very nice, good girl, is how good is her lateral flexion going to be when I'm sitting on her back? And right there, it seems pretty good. Now, I guarantee you if I had done this 2 days ago, first time I worked with her, probably even earlier today, this lateral flexion would not have been this good. But I've got her trusting that every time I pick up on that I'm going to release. I'm just going to flip this around to the other side. Ask for some lateral flexion there. Good. Again, I'm not, especially now when I'm on her back, I don't need her to bend all the way around to her shoulder. I just need, as soon as I touch this lead rope, I need that softness there. Cool. She did great. I'm going to go ahead and slide off of her. Put her up for the day. I would love for when I actually start to ride her for hopefully tomorrow, for her to be a little softer in that the circles and just not get quite so pissy about some of that stuff. So anyway, all right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.